are still listening to the Saturday Morning Show on Inspiration 92.3 FM, your number one family radio. It is time for Surviving Sickle Cell, a collaborative show with Inspiration FM and the Sickle Cell Foundation Nigeria. And today, our guest who is joining us via the telephone is Mrs. Ayo Otaigbe. She is a retired director of nursing, Nigeria Ports Authority, Lagos, and now the head of Department Genetic Counseling, Sickle Cell Foundation Nigeria. She is also the lead genetic counseling trainer for counselors all over Africa. And today we'll be talking about the importance of transcranial Doppler scan in the management of sickle cell disorder. I hope I got that correctly. Good morning, Ma.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you doing? I got it. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fine. Are you?
Doing very well, thank you. Thank you so much for joining us today. So what does that mean, the importance of transcranial Doppler scan in the management of sickle cell disorder?
Yes. Because the transcranial Doppler TCD, in short, we call it TCD. Transcranial Doppler screening is an important aspect.
Okay.
You cannot overlook it when it comes to the management of sickle cell disorder. So, for no reason,
yes,
about 1 in 10 children with sickle cell anemia, that's HBSS, who are aged 2 to 16 years, especially those aged 2 to 8 years, have a high risk of stroke. They have a high risk of stroke. It is only by carrying out transcranial Doppler test for children with sickle cell disorder aged 2 to 16 years that those who are at high risk of having stroke can be identified. Without that, they cannot be identified. In those days, before we started doing it, you just see a child will wake up, he will not be able to move one leg or one hand, or a child is running around, suddenly he will not be able to move. They will think, maybe he fell down. It's not true.
Yes.
So I would like to talk about stroke before I go further to talk about transcranial Doppler. Stroke is a major devastating complication. It is, in general.
Okay.
In the entire Nigeria population, strokes are commoner in adults than children.
Okay.
If not that we know about sickle cell, when we didn't know about sickle cell, we didn't know that children can have a stroke.
Yeah.
So it is only known in adults. That's what people know. But however, in the sickle cell anemia, HBSS population, the reverse is the case. As stroke is commonest in children 2 to 16 years, especially those 2 to 8 years.
Okay.
It is very disturbing to know, very, very disturbing to know that recurrence of stroke is very high in children who have had an initial stroke. Once a child has had an initial stroke, there's a tendency that we have another
one.
So when a recurrence of stroke happens, this would often transform to stroke, which would have been mild or manageable, into one that can render normal physical and or intellectual life impossible. When they have the first one, maybe they are going for treatment, management, and all, they are recovering. But the second one will get the child so dilapidated.
Okay.
It is therefore now, when a recurrence of stroke happens, this would often transform to stroke, which would have been mild or manageable, into one that renders normal physical and or intellectual life impossible. It is therefore very important for all parents and guardians of children with sickle cell anemia to be aware of their risk of stroke and be prepared to prevent an initial as well as a recurrent stroke.
Okay.
So what causes stroke? That's where I'm going into now. What actually causes stroke?
Okay.
The human brain controls our physical movement, our speech, our memory, and our intellectual capacity. Stroke occurs when the part of the brain which controls any of these functions is damaged by inadequate blood supply. I repeat it again. Stroke occurs when the part of the brain which controls any of these functions is damaged by inadequate blood supply. The reduced blood supply occurs because of blood clots. We call it thrombosis.
Okay.
When blood clots forms, it's called thrombosis, which hinders the flow of blood within the arteries of the brain. That is why stroke occurs. The reduced blood supply occurs because of blood clots, which hinders the flow of blood within the arteries of the brain. So stroke could also be due to blood loss when there is bleeding from the arteries in the brain. That's cerebral bleeding. But this is not common. This is not as common as the stroke caused by thrombosis or blood clots in the arteries of the brain. So are you following?
Oh, yes, absolutely, ma'am.
Okay. Most of the strokes in non-humans, be they adults without sickle cell disorder or children with sickle cell disorder, are caused by cerebral thrombosis. Even adults with hypertension and all that. When they have stroke, it means there is a blood clot blocking the blood flow in the arteries of the brain. So the brain is short of blood.
Okay. Because
of blood clot blocking the arteries within the brain. So that is the cause of stroke. So it is not yet known why children, rather than the adults with sickle cell disorder, are far more prone to developing cerebral thrombosis. That is, that blood clot I talk about within the arteries of the brain. It's not clear why children with sickle cell disorder develop it more than the adults with sickle cell disorder. A stroke can cause paralysis or profound weakness of muscles of the limbs on either side of the body. Kafai, have you ever seen a child with sickle cell disorder with stroke?
No, I've never.
You have not?
Mm-mm.
There could be loss of clear speech or reduced intellectual capacity. For example, in the class, because this child has had stroke, a child that was taking first was doing well intellectually. When he has had stroke, you will see the child will not be doing well academically again. He may be taking last in the class, or he may not even be able to comprehend what is happening around him or her. So there is no other way to identify the children with sickle cell disorder 8 to 16 years. There is no other way to discover whether they are at high risk of having stroke, except TCD test, that is Transcranial Doppler test, is carried out on them.
Okay.
So now I will go on to what is Transcranial Doppler. What is Transcranial Doppler?
Yes, ma'am. What is it?
Transcranial Doppler, that is TCD ultrasound, is a painless and non-invasive test that uses ultrasound to measure the velocity or speed of blood flow through the blood vessels in the brain. When we say velocity, it means the speed of blood flow through the blood vessels in the brain. It's through Transcranial Doppler ultrasound scan that the flow of blood, how fast, the speed of the flow of blood in the brain can be detected. So TCD equipment can detect the risk of stroke in sickle cell children, aged 2 to 16 years, within 30 minutes. It is a non-invasive procedure. Within 30 minutes, it can detect whether the child is at high risk of having stroke or not. It is done by trained personnel. It's not anybody that can just do it. It is done by trained personnel. So a finding of elevated velocity, that is a finding of the speed of blood flow through the blood vessel in the brain on any of the children means that these children are at high risk. If the speed is elevated, the speed of blood flow in the vessels of the brain, if it is elevated, it means this child is at high risk of having stroke. And when they are discovered like this, we don't leave them alone. We don't just say go. They are then subjected to stroke prevention therapy and further monitoring. There's a lot of treatment they are put on. At times, some may have exchange blood transfusion periodically, and they are also put on different drugs. They are monitored. They give them appointment to monitor them. So, stroke in children with sickle cell disorder can be prevented by allowing age 2 to 16 years to have TCD screening done at least once a year. At least once a year. Depending on the findings, they may be given shorter appointments for a repeat TCD screen. Maybe 6 months, maybe 3 months. It depends. If it is done and it seems normal, we give them 1 year appointment, a year appointment. If it is between normal and not normal, they are given like 6 months. But if they are at high risk of having it, you give them 3 months. And we still teach them to observe. Even those who have been given a 1 year, it doesn't mean if the person is normal last year, this year it cannot develop stroke. So we still teach them how to observe. There are signs and symptoms of stroke. Those who have come for counseling, we teach them how to recognize when the stroke wants to happen. A child may have slurred speech. If he was speaking clearly before, he will not be able to speak clearly again. And also we have loss of memory. If you tell this child something now, before you know, you ask him, can't remember what you have just told him.
What you told him,
And also, when it has really happened, you will see the child cannot move. The side of the body that has happened cannot move either the hand or the leg. And it is very devastating. So.
Okay. Are you there, ma'am?
No, I never reach halfway.
Okay, yes. All right.
So, it is very important, as I've said, that they come to do Transcranial Doppler for their children. So, Transcranial Doppler ultrasound screening service started in November 2011 at the National Sickle Cell Center, Sickle Cell Foundation Nigeria, opposite Lagos University Teaching Hospital in Araba. The service is still ongoing. Before we commence the Transcranial Doppler screening service in November 2011, some parents who could afford it were traveling to either the UK or USA to have it done for their children with sickle cell disorder. The availability of Transcranial Doppler screening service in Nigeria brought a great relief to parents and guardians of children with sickle cell disorder, especially those who could not afford traveling abroad to have it done for their children. Some parents were traveling from different states of Nigeria to the National Sickle Cell Center, Lagos, to have the TCD screening done for their children with sickle cell disorder. The children who are discovered to be at high risk of having stroke after the TCD screening test, as I said earlier, they are subjected to stroke prevention therapy. Stroke prevention therapy. Then, however, following the training of personnel when the training of personnel occurred at the Sickle Cell Center, personnel were chosen from the 6 geopolitical zones of Nigeria: Southwest, South-South, Southeast, Northeast, Northwest, North Central. That's in 2017. It was organized by Professor Ilu and National Sickle Cell Foundation. So they were brought to the center to be trained on how to do Transcranial Doppler for children. Instead of people traveling all the way to Lagos from north, so you see them coming from Kano, from Sokoto, from east, west, north, south, they were all coming.
Yeah.
So we wanted it to spread across the 6 geopolitical zones. So they were trained so that people will not be traveling long distances. So because of that, you see this training service is also now available in Ibadan, Asaba, Lautech, which is Ladoke Akintola University of Technology, Osogbo, Osun State. It's also available in Kano. Unfortunately, some of the geopolitical those, they have not started doing it. The machines were given to them, and the equipment is very expensive. It was given to them to start doing it, but some of them have not started doing it. So we know that Asaba own is functioning very well. Even Asaba, they call our technicians who have been trained on it to come and train the people in Asaba and retrain them again. So it's going on very well. But part of the north, some still come to the center because I don't think they are really practicing it a lot over there, except Kano. As at now, it is only at the National Sickle Cell Center, Sickle Cell Foundation Nigeria, that you see this training service available in the whole of Lagos State. What is the way forward? What is the way forward? Going forward, all state governments and commissioners of health should be briefed and asked to kindly provide TCD equipment in all their public hospitals. Like Lagos has a thick population. Over 20 million people are in Lagos. You can imagine. Only Sickle Cell Foundation Nigeria that had the equipment to do TCD. So they refer them to from all parts of Lagos. And people still come from other states to have it done. So it is good that the government provide the equipment and train their personnel to be doing it in all the public hospitals in Lagos and in other states. So what is the conclusion of the matter? The conclusion of the matter, since the commencement of TCD or Transcranial training test at the National Sickle Cell Center, Sickle Cell Foundation Lagos, many children with sickle cell disorder have had TCD tests done and at high risk of having stroke have been prevented from having stroke. Stroke can be prevented. Prevention is always better. Stroke can be prevented by subjecting those who are at high risk of stroke. We subject them to the prevention therapy, and they are also monitored. They are monitored from time to time. They are subjected to the therapy. The therapy is a bit tough. It's a bit, it requires a lot. But at least a lot of them have been prevented from having stroke. So stroke is a devastating complication in children with sickle cell disorder. Therefore, parents and guardians of children with sickle cell disorder should take it as a responsibility to make sure their children aged 2 to 16 years have transcranial Doppler or Transcranial training done in order to prevent them from having stroke. Prevention is always better than cure. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you so much. So how can they reach you, ma? What's your contact detail? What's the address?
You have what?
Your contact details, emails, social media handles for those who have further inquiries.
It's muffled. You said you have what?
For those who want further inquiries, your details, social media handle. Yes. Go ahead.
For further inquiry, they can come to the Sickle Cell Foundation Nigeria. The address is opposite Lagos University Teaching Hospital, Lute, Idiaraba, Surulere, Lagos. Our telephone number is +23480 3584 6666 +23481 00002003. Email is info@sicklecellfoundation.com. The website is www.sicklecellfoundation.com. Sickle Cell Foundation Nigeria, that is Facebook. Sickle Cell Nigeria, that is Twitter. @Sickle Cell Foundation NG, that is Instagram.
All right. Thank you
My
so
phone
much.
number is
Okay.
08033439199. 0913-734-7939. And come for counseling so that you will know more about all these things that I've talked about. Domestic counseling is available at the National Sickle Cell Center, Sickle Cell Foundation Nigeria. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
all.
Thank you so much. Have a great weekend, ma'am. Thank you.
You too.
All right, and that's it today on Surviving Sickle Cell. We'll be back same time next Saturday from 11:30 all the way to 12. I am Alden here. You all have a fantastic weekend. You can follow me on social media at you can follow us on social media IFM93 Lagos on Instagram, IFM93 on Twitter, Inspiration 92.3 FM on Facebook, and I am official Kafayat on Instagram and Kafayat Bakari 3 on Twitter. God bless you. Have a great weekend. Mwah!